Chapter 1. Single for 30 years, and you become a grand sorcerer. Cruciatus Curse. Those were the first words Xiaji heard upon transmigrating, even before he managed to open his eyes. Instantly, unbearable agony ripped through his very soul, and he lost consciousness amidst that excruciating torment. Some time later, Xiaji gradually regained consciousness. By then, whoever had cast the Cruciatus Curse on him had long since departed. He surveyed his surroundings and realized he was trapped inside a small iron cage. Around it lay a cavern filled with all sorts of miscellaneous items. A single kerosene lamp hung on the wall, casting a dim glow. There was no way to tell whether it was day or night. Trembling, Xiaji raised his hand. It was thin, pale, and unmistakably that of a child. He now knew with certainty that he had transmigrated and that this was the world of Harry Potter. Unfortunately, his arrival had been nothing short of disastrous. He had awakened immediately after enduring the Cruciatus Curse, meaning the original owner of this body had almost certainly perished under that torment. Xiaji had inherited this body precisely at the moment of death. 1 moment later, and he might have become the fastest transmigrator in history to die right after arrival. "This is bad," Xiaji murmured weakly, his voice hoarse and dry. The situation was undeniably perilous. A child locked inside a cage in a hidden cave could only mean one thing. He was at the mercy of some dark wizard. Given the torture he'd endured, the original owner had clearly been treated as nothing more than a test subject or plaything. If that wizard returned and cast another Cruciatus Curse, Xiaji knew he'd truly meet his end. His body was already pushed to its absolute limit. Cold seeped into his limbs, hunger twisted his stomach, and even sitting upright required effort. Every breath brought exhaustion with it. He struggled to devise a way to escape, but a strange fog seemed to cloud his mind whenever he tried to concentrate. His thoughts felt sluggish and fragmented. The memories of the original owner had largely vanished, leaving only fragmented remnants of fear and pain. Xiaji couldn't even determine where he was, or who had imprisoned him. Gritting his teeth, he crawled toward the cage door. The iron bars appeared ancient and rusted, yet testing them with both hands only made him despair. The cage was unbelievably sturdy. In his current state, brute force was utterly hopeless. Worse still, that mental fog constantly disrupted his thoughts. Every plan dissolved mid-conception, leaving only confusion and frustration. Minutes passed. Then longer still.
Ding.
The strongest white wizard cultivation system is now activating. S-system. Xiaji's previously lifeless eyes suddenly blazed with hope. That distinctive ding sound resonated in his mind. It was far sweeter than any melody in existence. This was his sole hope of escaping this nightmare.
Ding.
The system has detected that the host remained single for over 30 years in his past life. Upon death, he retained his virginity. Xiaji blinked in confusion. Huh.
Ding.
Per the universal law stating that those who remain single for 30 years become great wizards, the system hereby offers the host the template of a great wizard. Would you like to apply it? Great wizard. Xiaji frowned slightly, but at this point, survival was all that mattered. Apply it.
Ding.
Successfully applied the Great Wizard template to the host. Intelligence +9, Strength +9, Magic Power +9, Dark Magic Mastery +9. A sudden surge of energy erupted within Xiaji's body. A massive wave of magical energy materialized within him, yet remained entirely contained, producing no external effects whatsoever. Simultaneously, that mental fog that had plagued him vanished completely, leaving his mind crystal clear. He now felt brimming with strength. He could likely tear this cage apart with his bare hands. Though his body still appeared frail, it now concealed terrifying power. A soft blue interface materialized before him. The system explained it was his personal attribute panel, visible only to him. Name: Xiaji, race human, class Great Wizard, strength 10, intelligence 10, magic power 11, remaining skill points 0, spells none, talents none, dark magic mastery 9, transfiguration mastery 0, Divination Mastery 0, Potions Mastery 0, Alchemy Mastery 0, Expand. Xiaoji tapped the Expand button, and the panel stretched out, revealing countless detailed entries. After briefly scanning through them, he folded it back up. He noted that his intelligence had risen to 10. No wonder I felt foggy earlier. The original owner's base intelligence was merely 1 point.
Ding.
The original owner was mentally impaired, with intelligence at 0. This 10-point total represents your baseline. According to the system, average humans typically had strength and intelligence values around 3 to 4, while ordinary adult wizards generally had magic power around 5. This showed just how extraordinary this great wizard template was. The system further explained that all these attributes could be enhanced further over time. This only filled Xiaoji with elation. Ahem, though I was a poor student in my past life, surely my IQ wasn't that low. Also, why do wizards also invest in strength? Xiaoji quickly changed the subject.
Ding.
To the system's knowledge, wizards often favor close combat tactics. Xiaoji's eyes lit up. He now possessed 9 points of strength. In combat, he could wield a sword in one hand and a wand in the other, or even dual-wield massive swords. Though he could now easily destroy the cage, he saw no need to rush.
Ding.
As a reward for the system's activation, the host shall receive a starter pack. Would you like to open it? Open it, Xiaoji exclaimed eagerly. He hadn't expected such a generous bonus. Chapter 2. System. Are you sure you didn't pick the wrong name?
Ding.
The starter pack is now opening.
Ding.
Congratulations, host, on obtaining mastery over all 3 unforgivable curses. Huh. Xiaoji paused in his tracks, momentarily stunned by the sudden system notifications echoing in his mind. He quickly focused on the system interface floating before him and noticed that 3 new spells had appeared under the spells section. Spells: Avada Kedavra level 9 max, Cruciatus Curse level 9 max, Imperious Curse level 9 max. Talents: none. Dark Magic Proficiency: 9. Xiaoji hesitated briefly before asking cautiously, System, what exactly was your name again?
Ding.
This system is known as the strongest white wizard cultivation system. Are you absolutely certain you didn't pick the wrong name? Xiaoji wore a deeply skeptical expression. This system granted him all 3 unforgivable curses and a dark magic proficiency rating of 9 right from the start.
Ding.
There is no error in the system's designation. According to system analysis, powerful white wizards possess knowledge of dark magic comparable to, or even exceeding, that of black wizards. That makes sense. Xiaoji nodded slowly, reluctantly accepting this explanation. Now that he'd calmed down somewhat, his attention turned back to the rusted iron cage surrounding him. The bars were aged and stained with rust, with an old brass lock hanging from the door. Given the damp atmosphere and corroded metal, it was clear the original owner of this body had been imprisoned here for quite some time. Xiaoji lowered his gaze slightly. Though he'd inherited this body entirely by chance, he still felt a sense of guilt toward the boy who'd suffered such torment before dying here. I'll avenge you, he murmured softly. I promise. The cave remained cold and silent, broken only by the occasional drip of water echoing from deeper within. Xiaoji examined the lock on the cage and quickly devised 2 possible ways to escape. The first option involved brute force. Given sufficient strength, he could likely bend or break the brass lock. The second method relied on magic, the Alohomora spell. Xiaoji immediately favored the second option. The Alohomora spell appeared countless times in the original story, so he already knew its incantation by heart. More importantly, he was eager to test whether magic truly existed in this world. Though he currently lacked a wand, the system had stated that his great wizard template allowed him to cast spells without one. Xiaoji fixed his gaze on the brass lock and softly recited the spell from memory. Alohomora. At that moment, Xiaoji felt a faint warmth surge through his body. A subtle magical energy extended outward along his focus, striking the lock directly.
Click.
The sharp metallic sound echoed through the cave as the brass lock sprang open instantly. Simultaneously, the The system interface updated once more. Spells: Avada Kedavra Level 9 Max, Cruciatus Curse Level 9 Max, Imperious Curse Level 9 Max, Alohomora Level 1. Xiaozhi blinked in surprise. Then his eyes lit up with excitement. He quickly relocked the cage and cast the spell once more. The lock opened yet again. Checking the interface afterward, he saw the Alohomora spell had already risen to level 2.
Ding.
Repeated practice of spells constitutes another method of level progression aside from attribute enhancement. Given the host's great wizard template and 9-point intelligence, it's no surprise he's able to rapidly advance spells such as Alohomora through sheer practice. Xiaozhi finally understood. He removed the lock entirely, then pushed open the cage door. This door hadn't been opened in ages. It emitted loud, grating screeches upon being pushed. The noise carried far across the cavern. Moments later, Xiaozhi heard distant curses and hurried footsteps. The black wizard had been roused. Xiaozhi frowned slightly, though he no longer feared provoking this wizard. His strength had grown immensely, and he even possessed soul magic. In his current state, even a weakened Voldemort would stand no chance against him. Before long, a menacing-looking black wizard clad in robes appeared at the cave entrance. His fierce eyes peered out from beneath his hood, locking onto Xiaozhi standing outside the cage.
Kid.
I've no idea how you escaped that prison cage, but it seems yesterday's lesson didn't teach you enough humility. With that, he drew forth a slender wooden staff, preparing to cast a spell upon Xiaozhi. Cruciatus. Yet Xiaozhi acted faster. He raised a single finger, swiftly pointing it at the black wizard. Imperious Curse. Struck by Xiaozhi's spell, the black wizard's ferocious expression instantly froze. His eyes turned vacant, and he stood motionless, utterly incapable of casting any further spells. Xiaozhi walked over calmly and took the wooden staff from the wizard's grasp.
Ding.
Host successfully cast Imperious Curse without a wand for the first time. Congratulations on attaining level 10 in Occlumency. Xiaozhi felt inward satisfaction. In the wizarding world, entities capable of reading minds were far from rare. He had no desire for others to peer into his thoughts. Now, with level 10 Occlumency, no one could ever invade his mind again. Snapping back to reality, Xiaozhi examined the wooden staff in his hand. A peculiar sensation emanated from it. Suddenly, a pale yellow interface appeared before him. Unlike his usual blue attribute panel, this one displayed the properties of the item he held.
Ding.
Host may now view the attribute panel of any magical item at will via the system. Thrilled by this ability, Xiaozhi realized its immense value. No magical item could ever conceal its true nature from him. Any attempt to use black magic against him would now be utterly futile. Item: Wand. Wood: Blackthorn. Core: Dragon Heartstring. Length: 11¼ inches. Flexibility: Extremely rigid. Condition: Good. Previous owner defeated, now under new control. Compatibility: 91%. Affinity for black magic: 89%. Xiaozhi studied the wand's attributes. He recalled the original story mentioning that wands with dragon heartstring cores, though immensely powerful, tended to change owners easily, far less loyal than wands using unicorn hair cores. He swung the wand casually, instantly sensing a faint sense of subservience from it, a reaction he noted with satisfaction. After growing accustomed to the wand's feel, Xiaozhi turned his gaze back to the now zombified black wizard standing motionless before him. Chapter 3. Angry Xiaozhi. Xiaozhi hadn't managed to get struck down by an Avada Kedavra curse simply because he lacked a heart of pure benevolence. Rather, he was filled with countless questions. Who was the original owner of this body? Who was the black-robed wizard? Why had the original owner been captured and tortured daily? Where exactly was this place? What year was it now? Xiaozhi was desperate to learn what had happened. Though he currently lacked legitimacy, under the full control of the max-level Imperio curse, the black-robed wizard could still provide him with plenty of answers. What's your name? Xiaozhi pulled over a wooden barrel and sat upon it before beginning his interrogation. Blor Rex, The black-robed wizard replied, his expression blank and voice monotone. What year is it now? Who am I? Where do I come from? Xiaozhi had no memories related to the original owner. While the system claimed the original owner was an idiot, it seemed highly unlikely he'd have absolutely no memories at all. It's the year 1991. You're an orphan, born at a Muggle orphanage in London called Wu's Orphanage. An orphanage? So, the original owner was an orphan, huh? But why does Wu's Orphanage sound so familiar? Xiaozhi didn't dwell on this for long, and instead asked the most pressing question. Where exactly am I? Why was I brought here? This is Albania. We're currently inside a cave deep within a forest. Our boss ordered us to gather here in Albania by July 1st this year, with each of us required to bring along a magical child wizard. Half a year ago, I abducted you from that orphanage. Xiaozhi continued questioning him at length, eventually uncovering why he was here and why the original owner had turned into an idiot. It turned out this black wizard named Rex was a werewolf, part of a larger werewolf organization led by a powerful werewolf named Fenrir Greyback. Fenrir Greyback adored eating human flesh, especially the flesh of young wizards. Thus, he frequently abducted little wizards. These unfortunate victims either got devoured alive or transformed into werewolves, suffering horrendous fates. Xiaozhi recognized this werewolf. In the original story, Professor Lupin had been transformed into a werewolf precisely because his father had offended Fenrir Greyback, prompting the latter to take revenge. Fenrir Greyback also wielded a particularly wicked form of black magic, though he could only use it once per year. Xiaozhi had no recollection of this spell. It seemed it hadn't been mentioned in the original story at all. This spell could transform young wizards into werewolves while ensuring those newly transformed remained utterly loyal to him. The younger the wizard, the higher the spell's success rate. This was one of his primary methods of expanding his pack. Sure, Fenrir Greyback could turn others into werewolves simply by biting them during transformation, but those transformed that way lacked true loyalty. Yet those transformed via the spell became completely subservient to his werewolf bloodline, and thus fiercely loyal. The original owner of Xiaozhi's body had been slated to be transformed as well, thankfully not yet at the time of transformation. As for why the original owner had turned into an idiot, it was simply because this werewolf wizard was a psychopath who took great pleasure in torturing him daily. Over the past half-month, he'd even grown reckless enough to cast the Cruciatus Curse repeatedly. After enduring that torment every single day, the original owner, still just a child, had no chance of surviving even one instance of the Cruciatus Curse, let alone multiple ones. He'd been broken into an idiot. And yet Rex hadn't realized this. Seeing he hadn't died, he continued torturing him daily. Finally, today the original owner had breathed his last. It was at this exact moment that Xiaozhi had transmigrated, arriving just in time to receive a full dose of the Cruciatus Curse before even opening his eyes. You all truly deserve to die. Rage beyond measure burned within Xiaozhi's heart. These people no longer deserved to be called human. Had his system not awakened, even if he'd somehow survived the torture, he'd still have been turned into a werewolf, a fate far worse than death. The moment Xiaozhi transmigrated, this world became real. All those dark aspects never described in the original story undeniably existed in reality. Humanity's darkest side was utterly repulsive. Faced with all this, Xiaozhi felt anger he hadn't experienced in ages. He flicked his wand, releasing the Imperio Curse. He'd learned everything he needed to know. There was no need to ask further. Rex's blank expression returned to normal, and memories suppressed under the Imperio Curse flooded back. Overwhelmed by shock and fury, Rex reacted swiftly. Upon regaining consciousness, he lunged at Xiaozhi. Cruciatus Curse.
Ah.
Mid-lunge, Rex collapsed under the effects of the curse, writhing in agony. As a subordinate of Fenrir Greyback, Rex had certainly endured countless instances of the Cruciatus Curse himself. Yet he swore that, even adding up all his past sufferings, none compared to this excruciating pain. Xiaozhi's Cruciatus Curse was max level, but more importantly, his heart brimmed with hatred. Yes, not mere anger. but deep-seated hatred. Overwhelming, unrelenting hatred. Xiaji understood this hatred stemmed from faint remnants of the original owners while still lingering within his body, but he made no effort to suppress it. Let the original owner have his revenge too. This surge of hatred amplified his Cruciatus curse tenfold or more. And to ensure Rex fully endured the torment, Xiaji had even lifted the Imperio curse beforehand. Chapter 4. A Controllable Obscurus. Spare me, please let me go. Cruciatus curse.
Ah.
Although Xiaji had no prior connection to the original owner and still didn't even know his name, since the werewolf wizard Rex who kidnapped him also remained unaware, that didn't stop Xiaji from seeking vengeance on his behalf. Besides, right after transmigrating, this very individual had been torturing him using the Cruciatus curse. You seem to derive pleasure from tormenting others. So, why not experience the effects of the Cruciatus curse yourself? Xiaji spoke in a flat, indifferent tone, as though discussing what to eat for dinner. Rex stared at this frail-looking figure in horror, consumed by despair and confusion. He couldn't comprehend how this weak boy he'd tortured endlessly during the day could now effortlessly overpower him and even cast the Cruciatus curse with such precision. Yet, this was still just a child. His heart shouldn't possibly be devoid of compassion. Yes, he was merely a child. Surely, he couldn't truly be heartless. A glimmer of hope appeared in Rex's eyes. He resolved to plead for mercy and, upon spotting an opening, launch a sudden attack. After all, he was no match for a child, and if he acted swiftly enough, the boy wouldn't have time to cast another spell. Thus, Rex began his act.
No.
Please have mercy. I know I was wrong. Xiaji watched this pathetic performance with mild amusement, then raised his wand expressionlessly. Cruciatus curse.
Ah.
What makes you think that someone who's endured half a year of torment would still possess a soft heart? Xiaji paused briefly before continuing. Truthfully, he had no fear of Rex's attack. With his current power level, he could effortlessly send Rex crashing into a wall even without magic. Rex's face stiffened. His intentions had been seen through. Yet, before he could resume begging, Cruciatus curse.
Ah.
This time, Xiaji showed no signs of stopping. Time passed. Eventually, the agonized screams within the cave faded away, replaced by a blinding green glow that illuminated the entire cavern. Then, silence returned. Moments later, Xiaji emerged from the cave. Dawn had broken. The soft morning light, though gentle, felt excruciatingly bright to his eyes. This body hadn't seen sunlight in ages. Gradually, the violent rage within him subsided. Simultaneously, he sensed that the lingering will of the original owner had fully dissipated, leaving his mind clear and unburdened. This meant his transmigrated soul had fully merged with his body. Vague, unfamiliar memories began resurfacing in his mind, memories he'd soon fully recall. Currently, his breathing remained rapid, partly due to prolonged malnutrition from captivity, partly from continuously casting the Cruciatus curse. It's no wonder people say excessive use of dark magic corrodes one's soul. Having wielded all three unforgivable curses, Xiaji deeply understood this corrosive effect. Fortunately, thanks to the system, these side effects remained minimal and faded swiftly.
Ding.
Host has successfully used all three unforgivable curses. Congratulations on receiving a new treasure chest. Shall it be opened? Open the chest. Though elated, Xiaji felt bewildered. Rewards for using unforgivable curses? This system was undeniably peculiar.
Ding.
Congratulations, host. You've acquired the power of a controllable obscurus. Xiaji's heart skipped a beat. An obscurus? He knew exactly what those were. When underage wizards suppress their magical abilities excessively, they risk birthing a dark magical entity known as an obscurus within themselves. Such individuals, termed obscurials, rarely survived past age 11.
Ding.
The obscurus obtained by host is fully controllable, thus carrying zero side effects. While in obscurus form, host retains complete mental clarity. Xiaji summoned his status panel. Spells: Avada Kedavra level 9 max, Crucio level 9 max, Imperio level 9 max, Alhamra level 2. Talent: Obscurial. Dark Magic Mastery, 9. A new entry, Obscurial, now appeared under Talents. Closing the panel, Xiaji focused his intent. Instantly, his body emitted thick waves of black mist, eventually dissolving entirely into a swirling mass of inky darkness floating midair. Even as an Obscurus, his consciousness remained razor-sharp. This state felt utterly wondrous. In this form, he seemed to gain extraordinary abilities: flight, the power to summon devastating black whirlwinds capable of leveling mountains, even the ability to evade spells by becoming pure mist. With another mental command, the mist reconstituted itself into human form. Extending a hand, he released a thin trail of black energy and was astounded to discover that even minimal use of Obscurus power visibly amplified both his magical reserves and physical strength. Truly, this was the power even Grindelwald had coveted. Only now did Xiaji finally possess true self-defense capabilities. Though the Obscurus phenomenon itself was a form of dark magic, this system was utterly bizarre, a white wizard cultivation system. He sincerely doubted it. Chapter 5. Forgiving you is Merlin's decision. Xiaji finally saw his own appearance in this life for the first time, reflected in the surface of a water bucket. To his surprise, just like in his previous life, he still had black hair and black eyes. After checking with the system, he learned that he remained a native of Tianchao in this lifetime. Seeing this familiar visage filled him with a deep sense of comfort. Since he had no idea what the original owner's name was, Xiaji resolved to keep using Xiaji as his name this time as well. After familiarizing himself with his new abilities and eating a bit, he decided there was no need to linger any longer and promptly left the cave.
Ding.
A true white wizard must be unforgiving toward evil. Upon witnessing injustice and the suffering of the innocent, one must courageously intervene to rescue them.
Ding.
Quest issued: Rescue the children abducted by werewolf wizards. Upon completion, you shall receive 2 skill points and 1 treasure chest as a reward. Failure incurs no penalties. Do you accept this quest? You clearly meant Black Wizard, didn't you? I've long suspected something was off about you, system.
Ding.
Let me reiterate. Ultimate authority over interpretation rests with the system. If you do not accept the quest within 10 seconds, it shall be voided. So, do you accept it? Xiaji waved his hand. I accept. Unforgivingness toward evil wasn't exclusive to black wizards anyway, and he had no intention of letting these vile werewolf wizards get away scot-free. Besides, Xiaji considered himself no bad person. If he lacked the means to help, he might have stood by, but now that he possessed the power to save others, he certainly wouldn't stand idly by. The quest offered 2 skill points alongside a treasure chest. This was the first time he'd even heard of skill points. They could be allocated to any attribute on his panel, making them an invaluable long-term reward. With that decision made, Xiaji transformed into a swirl of black mist and flew toward the rendezvous point Rex had mentioned. Countless young wizards like him had been abducted and awaited rescue, and there were plenty of scumbags among those werewolf wizards who deserved to die. Xiaji had never flown before in his past life. This was his very first time. Truth be told, it was an utterly extraordinary sensation. He fell head over heels for it the instant he took to the skies. Free. Exhilarating. If only he hadn't been in Obscurus form, he would have cheered out loud. Watching rivers and mountains rush beneath him, his mind raced with thoughts. This was Albania. It was here Voldemort had hidden after sustaining heavy damage. From Rex's words, he knew it was late June, 1991. Was there a chance he'd encounter Voldemort here? The odds seemed high. Even a dying Voldemort remained a formidable foe. Xiaji had to prepare thoroughly. That said, he saw no immediate need to hunt down that fragmented soul. He was strong now, yes, but couldn't fully exterminate Voldemort without destroying all his Horcruxes first. Until that was done, Voldemort's coarse soul remained indestructible. Thus, his plan was to wipe out these werewolf wizards, and then leave. Flying at such heights heightened all his senses. As he reveled in the bliss of flight, a thunderous noise suddenly pierced his ears. It came from a forest, not far off. Intrigued, Xiaji swiftly steered his obscurus form toward the source. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the scene. What he saw left him stunned. A girl with golden hair and delicate features, clad in an elegant green dress, lay sprawled on the ground. She tried to maintain composure, yet her emerald eyes brimmed with terror. Before her yawned a crater clearly formed by magical explosion. Her once pristine dress was now caked in mud, yet she still clutched her wand, aiming it at her attackers, several ragged, filthy werewolf wizards who snarled and crept closer. Their stench was unmistakable. Even from the air, Xiaji recognized it at once. The boss'll be thrilled. Absolutely. He's been whining about craving sweet blood lately. This girl's perfect for him. Maybe we'll get a share too. Perhaps even a thigh. Hearing this, the girl trembled harder, raised her wand, and struggled to recall spells she'd learned. Expelliarmus. Before she could decide on another defense, a disarming charm struck her wand, sending it flying. Despair washed over her. Another werewolf wizard raised his wand. Stupefy. But his stunning spell never finished. A torrent of black mist, reeking of pure evil, descended from the sky and engulfed all the werewolf wizards.
Ah, ah, ah.
Caught off guard, they dropped their wands. Several were crushed against trees midair, killed instantly. Only one survived, tossed to the ground with such force he nearly lost his life. The mist dissipated, reshaping into human form, Xiaji. Without preamble, he planted a boot on the surviving werewolf wizard's chest and raised his wand. Cruciatus curse. Ah. Moments later. Talk. Where's your camp? Xiaji asked after ensuring the werewolf wizard could no longer resist. This spot lay far from Rex's rendezvous point, yet these wizards appeared here, proof a camp surely lurked nearby. He needed one survivor to interrogate. Otherwise, he'd have slain them all. No mercy remained in his heart for them. Who else would show mercy to those abducted children? Countless innocents had perished at their hands over the years. Who are you? The werewolf wizard gasped, eyes wide with fear. Cruciatus curse.
Ah, I'll talk.
After spilling the camp's location and head count, the wizard gazed at Xiaji with desperate hope. I am sorry. Please spare me. I'm just a lowly lackey. Xiaji replied coldly. Mercy is Merlin's domain. My duty is to send you to him. Avada Kedavra. A blinding green flash illuminated the forest, sending birds scattering in panic. Chapter 6. Cassandra Vole.
Ding.
The host acts with decisiveness and ruthlessness, a truly exemplary trait for a white wizard. This system is deeply pleased. Congratulations, host, on receiving a bonus of +9 to charm. Charm? I don't recall seeing any such attribute listed on the panel, Xiaji remarked, puzzled as he examined his status screen. By now, he had grown accustomed to the system's occasional nonsensical remarks.
Ding.
Where there's a will, there's a way. I declare it to exist. Instantly, Xiaji noticed that beneath his mana value, a new line had appeared as if someone had pressed the enter key. The word charm gradually materialized, followed by the number 10. This seemed to confirm that his previous charm rating had indeed been merely 1. Xiaji glanced back at the panel once more. Mana, 11. Charm, 10. Remaining skill points, 0. So, these attributes could be modified on the spot? It was quite impressive, though he wondered what practical use a +9 boost to charm would serve.
Ding.
This system absolutely refuses to allow any Dark Lord to resemble a mere socket plug in appearance. Whoa. So the system finally dropped the act. It's finally revealing its true colors. I knew there was something off about you all along.
Ding.
The host definitely didn't hear this system's words, right? After all, you wouldn't want to lose access to future system-provided perks, would you? 10 skill points. I'd instantly forget everything.
Ding.
1 skill point. Take it or leave it. Of course I'll take it. Xiaoji inwardly grumbled at how stingy the system was, yet he wisely chose to accept the offer. Gaining even a single skill point for free was already a massive win. He'd long since figured out the system's nature ever since it first activated. He wasn't worried about being manipulated by it either. Suddenly, Xiaoji sensed someone approaching from behind. He turned around to see that the blonde girl had somehow stood up by now. Hello. My name is Cassandra Vole. Though I certainly didn't need your help, I could have freed myself on my own. Still, thank you for stepping in. The Vole family will be eternally grateful. Though she spoke with forced composure, her trembling body and rapid breathing betrayed her nervousness. Facing someone capable of casting both Avada Kedavra and the Cruciatus Curse at will, it was only natural she'd be terrified, especially considering she was merely 11 years old. Xiaoji finally realized why she seemed so familiar. Wasn't she a character from that mobile game he'd played in his past life? Back then, whenever opponents used her in battle, he'd always dominate effortlessly. But he quickly refocused. Given he'd actually transmigrated into this world, it hardly seemed surprising to encounter a game character here. Hello, Miss Vole. No need for thanks. Xiaoji smiled warmly, then tucked his wand away and began his favorite pastime, looting. Moments later, he'd amassed several wands, assorted silver sickles, and bronze nuts, though not a single galleon. Incredible. Rex must be the wealthiest werewolf Xiaoji's ever encountered. He's got actual galleons on him. Turning back, Xiaoji picked up one wand and handed it to Cassandra with a grin. Here, this ought to be yours. Thanks to his ability to view item details, he'd easily identified her wand. Besides, this one was brand new, clearly purchased recently. Cassandra shivered, slowly regaining her senses as she numbly accepted it. Xiaoji assumed she was still traumatized. After all, she was just an 11 or 12-year-old kid. He forgot one crucial detail. He himself was also an 11 or 12-year-old kid. In truth, Cassandra had merely been stunned at first. She possessed considerable courage. Her daze stemmed from realizing her savior was another young wizard around her age. It took effort to reconcile this seemingly frail boy with the ruthless spellcaster who'd acted so decisively moments prior. Hence her half-hearted protest during thanks. Most importantly, though, she found him utterly adorable. To her, his charm extended far beyond mere looks. It was his overall aura. Despite his tattered clothes, messy hair, and pale complexion from apparent malnutrition, he exuded an indescribable warmth and grace that drew her close. When he smiled, her heart pounded uncontrollably. Only after receiving her wand did she finally compose herself. Unbeknownst to Xiaoji, thanks to that +9 charm boost, he now shone brilliantly in her eyes. Hey, isn't it customary for a gentleman to introduce himself after a lady does so? Cassandra immediately regretted her tone. It sounded far too brash. After all, this boy was capable of instant murder spells despite their similar ages. Her voice softened instinctively. At minimum, please tell me your name. Xiaoji blinked, then chuckled sheepishly. Distracted by looting, he'd forgotten her entirely. A major faux pas. Apologies. I'm Xiaoji. Just call me Xiaoji. Please don't say Jixia. He recalled that girl named Qiuzhang from the original story. Blushing furiously, Cassandra cursed internally. He'd smiled again. Unaware of her reaction, Xiaoji's smile faded into melancholy as fragmented memories resurfaced. He grew increasingly empathetic toward his host body's tragic fate. I was captured by them, obviously. Noticing his sorrow, Cassandra's heart clenched. Why did he seem so heartbroken? What horrors had he endured? Why did she feel such empathy? And how had he materialized from dark mist? Her curiosity toward this savior intensified exponentially. Chapter 7. Absolutely, it's just a tiny bit of goodwill towards Xiaoji and Cassandra Vole. Of course, Cassandra Vole knew exactly what an obscurus was, but as far as she understood, obscuri possessed no conscious awareness whatsoever. Thus, upon witnessing Xiaji in his obscure estate, she failed to grasp what was happening at all. Since you were captured by them, why are you here now? Cassandra trailed off, gazing at Xiaji with hesitation. She had countless questions, yet didn't know where to begin. Moreover, deep down she still harbored fear toward Xiaji. Some inner voice warned her that before a wizard capable of casting unforgivable curses at will, she ought to remain silent rather than ask questions. Yet for some inexplicable reason, she still spoke up, as though subconsciously convinced Xiaji wouldn't harm her. Naturally, she immediately regretted it afterward. What if he deemed her troublesome and cast Avada Kedavra on her instead? She certainly didn't wish to die. Cassandra's emotions swirled in chaotic conflict. Had Xiaji possessed legitimacy, he'd undoubtedly have been utterly bewildered by her turbulent thoughts. Of course, Xiaji had no intention of casting Avada Kedavra on her. He wasn't some mindless dark wizard. Right now, he simply wanted to send Cassandra away quickly. He'd just learned of another encampment nearby, meaning new tasks awaited him. Judging from the system's behavior, it seemed increasingly excited whenever Xiaji displayed extreme brutality. Completing this encampment clearance mission would undoubtedly yield generous rewards. Though the system behaved rather oddly, it excelled at granting generous benefits. My story's rather lengthy, Xiaji sighed, gazing skyward at a 45-degree angle. This wasn't Xiaji trying to act cool. I genuinely felt my backstory was rather long, and currently had no idea how to fabricate it. Out of sheer frustration, this gesture simply slipped out instinctively. Xiaji remained utterly unaware that he'd now become an entity even more abstract than a siren, one whose influence affected all genders and ages alike. Even the slightest movement or fleeting emotion emitted by him could profoundly sway those around me. Naturally, this was all part of the system's cunning design. Hey, Dark Lord, esteemed white wizard, don't you need to deliver a speech? One that stirs your audience's emotions? As the strongest white wizard cultivation system, it's perfectly reasonable for me to enhance your charisma so it reaches astronomical levels, right? I'm truly exemplary at my duties. Cassandra's emotions had already been subtly influenced. Xiaji's apparent frustration, through her own imagination, transformed into melancholy. Witnessing this seemingly melancholic young man, Cassandra suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to assist him regardless of consequences. Xiaji turned back toward her, offering a gentle smile. Miss Vol, my story truly is rather lengthy, yet right now I've urgent matters to attend to. Might I suggest you return to your family? Should circumstances permit, I'll gladly recount my tale later. Yes, later. I hadn't crafted any details yet. A young lady dressed impeccably, with exquisite makeup, wandering alone through this forest? She certainly hadn't arrived here on foot. Most likely she'd ventured out for leisure before becoming separated from her kin and encountering unsavory individuals. My 3 servants, 2 were slain by them, while the 3rd went missing, he's likely. Cassandra's tone turned somber. Though outwardly she maintained an aloof demeanor toward servants, this was merely superficial. I'm terribly sorry, Xiaji hesitated, uncertain how to console her. Thus, might I accompany you temporarily? Please don't misunderstand. I simply wish to locate my missing servant. He might still be alive. Cassandra averted her gaze shyly, seemingly unable to meet my eyes. Xiaji rubbed his nose awkwardly, suddenly acquiring a tag-along complicated matters considerably. Yet I couldn't possibly abandon her alone in this forest. What if she encountered that nose-less abomination? The grotesque image of a face sprouting from Cassandra's skull flashed briefly through my mind before I forcibly banished it. Utterly repulsive. After all, enhanced intelligence amplified my imagination exponentially. Very well, we'll travel together. Xiaji nodded. However, should any danger arise, you must stay hidden. I'm not doubting your abilities, it's just that my spellcasting remains somewhat unrefined. Misfires occur easily. It'd be dreadful if you were inadvertently harmed. A mere 11, or 12-year-old wizard capable of inducing a grown wizard to writhe in agony via Cruciatus Curse, claiming his magic remained unrefined. Typically, at this age, even casting unforgivable curses would merely induce minor nosebleeds in adults. Naturally, Cassandra understood I spoke thus purely to preserve her dignity. He truly cares about how I feel. Cassandra's mind spiraled once more. Lost in thought, her ears gradually flushed crimson. Only someone possessing +10 charisma like Xia Ji could elicit such a reaction. Should any other young wizard speak similarly, she'd likely draw her wand defensively rather than feel pleased.
Ding.
Host successfully garnered astronomical levels of goodwill from Cassandra Vole, rewarding one random talent. Host wished to claim this reward. Henceforth, the system and I communicate in Chinese. Huh. Xiaji stood momentarily bewildered. Saving someone's life ought to earn basic gratitude, yet this level of goodwill warranted a reward? The system proved remarkably considerate. Had I misjudged it earlier?
Ding.
Absolutely. Astronomical levels of goodwill. Congratulations, host. Wish to claim your random talent? I certainly do. Chapter 8. He is actually such a magnificent person.
Ding.
Randomly selecting a talent now. Xiaji waited eagerly for the system's notification sounds.
Ding.
Congratulations, host, on obtaining the highest tier talent, Parseltongue. Under this talent, all snakes will obediently heed your commands. Xiaji's lips twitched. Is this really random? Are you sure? Can't you at least give me a reward unrelated to dark wizards? I seriously suspect you're cheating. In the original story, Parseltongue was described as a talent exclusive to dark wizards. Even Harry Potter, in his second year, faced prolonged misunderstanding simply because he displayed this ability. And Harry acquired it solely because Voldemort left behind a fragment of his soul within Harry's mind.
Ding.
How dare you make baseless accusations? Haven't I also rewarded you with a clemency? A clemency certainly isn't dark magic. A clemency helps me conceal any dark magic I learn. That's why you gave it to me, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have done so. Ahem. Professor Dumbledore himself knows Parseltongue too. Why don't you mention that? This time, the system didn't even emit a notification sound. Dumbledore learned it as a skill, not as an innate talent.
Ding.
Do you even want it? The system unleashed its ultimate move. Of course I do. Xiaji eagerly accepted it. He'd already accepted all 3 unforgivable curses at maximum level. A mere talent like Parseltongue posed no problem whatsoever. Next time, just hand it over directly instead of this random selection nonsense. Everyone knows your rewards are predetermined anyway. Xiaji muttered under his breath. You could have even given me a max-level disarming charm.
Ding.
Don't you know the incantation? Go practice it yourself. Xiaji choked up in exasperation. Yet the system had a point. Compared to disarming charm, which required personal effort to master, obtaining Parseltongue as a natural talent was far easier. After bickering further with the system, Xiaji resumed his journey. Unbeknownst to him, while he fumed at the system's antics, Cassandra Vole trailing behind him grew increasingly puzzled. Why are his shoulders twitching? Is he crying? He mentioned being captured by those werewolf wizards. I wonder how long he was held captive, what horrors he endured. Cassandra mused aloud. Those monsters tortured him relentlessly, driving him to wield the unforgivable curses so mercilessly. His heart must overflow with hatred. It's completely understandable. Werewolves are monstrous creatures. They even planned to capture me and feed me to their leader. Horrific. He's undoubtedly suffered greatly, silently bearing it all. Suddenly, Cassandra yearned to peer at Xiaji's face. Is he truly weeping? But mothers always say boys hate being seen crying. Yet I truly wish to witness it. I'll restrain myself. I'm such a compassionate soul. He'd be deeply moved upon learning my thoughts.
Ding.
Congratulations, host. Cassandra's goodwill toward you has increased significantly. Humph. No rewards this time. Xiaji blinked.
Huh?
What on earth? With an extra burden now, Xiaji couldn't simply apparate away. He reluctantly accompanied Cassandra on foot. He'd considered transforming into an Obscurus and carrying her mid-flight, but Obscurus' power was immense. One miscalculation could easily kill her. Walking it is safer, he resolved. The encampment's not far. After clearing it out, we'll rest properly. I haven't had a proper break since escaping. Along the way, Cassandra recounted why she'd ventured into this desolate forest. Her parents, perpetually occupied, entrusted her care to 3 servants, the steward Marcus, and maids Winifred and Delia. Bored stiff at home, Cassandra overheard Marcus mention Albania's forests teeming with wondrous creatures and breathtaking vistas. Impulsively, she convinced her servants to accompany her on a trip, only to encounter a pack of werewolf wizards moments after arrival. Winifred and Delia perished instantly. Marcus vanished without a trace. Xiaji smirked inwardly. This plot's more melodramatic than a romance novel. If Marcus turns out innocent, I'll eat my hat. The encampment lay nearby. Soon, they spotted its campfires. Hastily, they concealed themselves behind a massive tree. Cassandra feigned composure, yet terror glimmered in her eyes. Why are we near their camp? Didn't you ascertain its location earlier? She'd assumed Xiaji gathered intel to avoid confrontation, yet here they stood at its heart. Xiaji glanced at her oddly. Of course it's here. I came precisely to find them.
Wah.
Are you insane? Why seek them out? Cassandra gasped, eyes widening. You'll surely perish. Without them, countless other children will suffer the same fate.
They must die.
His gaze hardened as he stared at the distant flames. Cassandra stared at his pale, strikingly handsome features, momentarily entranced. He's truly a noble soul. Xiaji glanced back, hesitating. Alone, he'd charge headlong, but with Cassandra in tow. He recalled his Parseltongue talent, the system's claim of its supreme tier, and Albania's abundant serpent population. Straightening his posture, he emitted a series of serpentine hisses. Instantly, the tranquil forest teemed with rustling sounds. Snakes, countless venomous serpents, were converging upon the encampment. Nightfall offered perfect cover. The werewolves slept soundly, making this the ideal ambush window. Noticing Cassandra's astonishment, Xiaji prepared to explain. As a future Slytherin, she'd harbor no prejudice toward Parseltongue, so he saw no harm in revealing it here. Yet before he could speak, his voice vanished. A colossal serpent, thick as a barrel, had burst into the camp. Stunned, Xiaji watched chaos erupt thereon. Screams erupted in rapid succession. I think I summoned something rather catastrophic. He swallowed hard, trembling. Chapter 9, Xiaji and the Voldemort Interception. Because of that giant snake, Xiaji, who had planned to launch a stealthy attack, had no choice but to alter his plans. Stay right here. There are too many snakes inside. I'm afraid they might harm you. Having said that, Xiaji stood up, preparing to act. Cassandra stared at him blankly, then instinctively nodded. Had her parents witnessed the scene, they would have been utterly astonished. They'd never seen their daughter behave so obediently before. Xiaji transformed into a swirl of black mist and surged toward the camp. Within that camp, 10 werewolf wizards remained. Had Xiaji not summoned those snakes earlier, the situation might still have been perilous now. After all, the enemy outnumbered him, and an Obscurus isn't truly invincible. It can still be injured by spells. Yet now, the camp was overrun not only by venomous snakes but also by an absurdly massive serpent. Less than a minute into the battle, 2 werewolf wizards had already been killed by that giant snake. Nevertheless, those werewolf wizards were desperate fighters. Once they regained their composure, they all drew their wands and fought back. When they went all out, those ordinary snakes stood no chance against adult wizards. Thus, most of their attention focused on combating that enormous viper. That giant snake displayed incredible combat prowess. Spells rarely affected its scales. Yet being bitten by it meant certain death. Its tail also wielded immense destructive power. Only a few werewolf wizards could withstand it. Just then, Xiaji arrived. Transforming into black mist, he unleashed his Obscurus abilities. Any tents or trees in his path were instantly flung high into the air. Wherever the black mist passed, the ground appeared plowed by some colossal plow, leaving deep furrows behind.
Whoosh.
Xiaji grabbed 2 werewolf wizards within his mist and hurled them skyward. From within the mist, their agonized screams rang out. Moments later, those screams ceased. 2 lifeless bodies plummeted from above, crashing heavily onto the ground. What the hell is this thing? Oh no! Save me.
Ah.
I've been bitten, help. Under the joint assault of the giant snake and Xiaji's Obscurus, all werewolf wizards in the camp were wiped out in under 5 minutes. Xiaji reverted from Obscurus form back into human shape and landed gently. Breathing heavily, he curiously gazed at the massive viper before him. That giant snake slowly crawled up to him, flicking its long tongue. Asterisk. I've never encountered a wizard capable of speaking to snakes. You're the first. When I heard you ask for our help in battle, I came at once. Asterisk. Staring at that enormous snake head, Xiaji felt bewildered. Neither in his past life, nor this one had he ever seen a snake this large. Yet, he quickly composed himself and replied using serpent speak. Asterisk. Thank you for your assistance. What is your name? Asterisk. After asking, a vague suspicion arose within him. Asterisk. I am Nagini. I've lived in this forest for ages. May I stay with you? Your presence emits a scent that draws me in. Asterisk. Xiaji inwardly gasped. This was indeed Nagini, Voldemort's future pet. Or rather, was she already Voldemort's pet now? Had she come here specifically to manipulate him? Though Nagini claimed he was the first wizard she'd ever conversed with, Xiaji couldn't verify if that was truth or not. Cautiously eyeing Nagini, he summoned the system. He truly couldn't tell whether she'd already become Voldemort's pet. If Nagini currently hosted some sort of Voldemort, the situation would be extremely dangerous. Asterisk ding. Excellent. As a great white, no, black wizard, intercepting the Dark Lord's pet is an act of immense significance. This greatly weakens his power. Host, you've done another wonderful deed, asterisk. System. Does this mean Nagini hasn't met Voldemort yet? Asterisk ding.
Correct.
My analysis confirms Nagini hasn't encountered Voldemort yet. She's currently drawn to your aura and wishes to become your pet, asterisk. My aura? What aura? Asterisk ding. Naturally, it's the aura emanating from your Serpent Speak talent, the very talent you've always despised. Serpent Speak isn't merely about conversing with snakes. Wizards possessing this talent exude a scent that attracts snakes. How else could Serpent Speak compel snakes to obey? Moreover, you possess the highest tier form of this talent. Naturally, Nagini feels drawn to you and wishes to follow you. Asterisk. Seeing Xiaji remain silent, Nagini assumed he disapproved. Asterisk. If this troubles you, then never mind. I hope we meet again. Asterisk. Nagini turned her head, preparing to leave. Asterisk. Wait. If you wish it, you may stay with me always. But you must obey me and never harm anyone. Asterisk. Nagini joyfully nodded. She possessed high intelligence, yet in this forest, her only conversational partners were other snakes, none of whom were particularly bright. Thus, she'd always felt profoundly lonely. Now, encountering Xiaji, a wizard she could converse with and whose presence soothed her so deeply, she felt pure elation. Xiaji sighed softly, gazing at Nagini with a hint of pity. Of course, he knew Nagini had originally been human. Cursed by a blood-based beast transformation spell, she'd become a snake entirely, even losing all memories of her human life. He'd definitely find a way to break that curse. This stemmed purely from compassion, absolutely not because Nagini had been a stunningly beautiful woman in human form. Definitely not for that reason at all. Chapter 10. Defeated Cassandra Vole. Soon after, Xiaji found himself in a predicament. Nagini appeared to be much larger than she was depicted in the movies. How on earth was he supposed to carry her away? That was when Xiaji remembered the system. System, I gotta pentakill this round. No rewards for that. During the battle, Nagini alone had taken down 5 werewolf wizards. Xiaji had rushed over only to snag those 5 kills for himself. He suspected that if all the kills had gone to Nagini, the system might have refused to issue any rewards at all.
Ding.
The host has cleared out the werewolf camp and intercepted the Dark Lord's pet. Congratulations on obtaining the max-level undetectable extension charm. Nice. This is perfect. Xiaji no longer worried about how to transport Nagini. He'd always regarded the undetectable extension charm as practically a cheat-like spell. Take Newt Scamander's suitcase, for instance. How small was it on the outside? Yet inside, it stretched into an endless expanse capable of housing countless magical creatures without them interfering with one another. The spell's effectiveness bordered on unreasonable. Even Newt's version hadn't reached max level yet its effects were already phenomenal. Now he possessed the max level version. Just imagine how powerful it must be. Xiaji couldn't wait to test it. SSSSS. Xiaji, may I eat them? I'm rather hungry. Nagini's serpentine had turned toward the corpses of the werewolf wizards. SSSSS. It's better if you don't eat humans. I'll find other food for you. Xiaji refused her request. It was for her own good. Should she ever be freed from her curse and recall eating humans, it might leave lasting psychological trauma. Xiaji decided to search the camp for any edible supplies. Now that Nagini had mentioned it, he realized he was hungry too. Meanwhile, Cassandra Vole had remained hidden behind a large tree. Only after the dust settled did she step forward. She then witnessed Xiaji conversing with that bizarre giant snake through a series of SSSSS sounds. The serpent seemed quite delighted, her tail swaying back and forth, knocking over several small trees in the process. Finally, Xiaji appeared to be lecturing her, and to Cassandra's astonishment, the snake actually nodded in response. I must be going insane, Cassandra murmured to herself. She'd already guessed that Xiaji possessed the talent for Parseltongue. Initially curious as to why he had such a gift, she recalled how he'd mentioned being an orphan during their earlier conversation. That was enough to dissuade her from asking further. Parseltongue was typically inherited through bloodline. Yet asking an orphan about his ancestors just to explain his ability? Cassandra refused to be so foolish. So, you two became friends? Cassandra approached, eyeing the massive green serpent curiously. Absolutely. Without Nagini's help, I might have ended up injured. Xiaji replied cheerfully. By the way, Nagini is her name. You gave her that name? Nope, she told me herself. As he chatted with Cassandra, Xiaji continued scavenging, his favorite pastime. After a thorough search, he picked up a tattered, shabby tent. It was the least damaged item in the entire camp. The Obscurus's attacks had been devastating. Its full-force strikes rivaled a Category 12 hurricane, reducing anything it touched to rubble. Miss Vole. Actually, you may call me Cassandra. Her face flushed slightly. Understood, Cassandra. What's the incantation for the repair charm again? Xiaji struggled to recall it. You wish to repair this tent?
Exactly.
It's late now. We need somewhere to rest. Xiaji gazed at the dilapidated tent with resignation. This type of tent already incorporates an undetectable extension charm. Ordinary repair charms rarely work on them. Even if they do, the internal extension charm ends up ruined. As a member of a wizarding family, Cassandra knew plenty of spells and lore despite not yet attending school. If you doubt me, go ahead and try it. The incantation is Reparo. Nodding, Xiaji waved his wand casually. Reparo. Of course, merely knowing the words wasn't enough. One also needed the proper wand motions. Yet before Cassandra could finish speaking, the tattered tent underwent a drastic transformation. An invisible hand seemed to reshape it silently. Within seconds, it appeared brand new, as though freshly manufactured. Cassandra stood speechless, mouth agape. Not only was this Xiaji's first attempt at casting Repair Charm, but even seasoned adult wizards would need multiple repetitions and several minutes to restore such a large tent to its original state. Yet Xiaji, had done it on his very first try, and with just a single casting. The tent looked utterly pristine afterward. She'd seen others restore objects to perfection before, but such a massive tent? It should have taken ages. Yet Xiaji had merely waved his wand and spoken a few words. Where were the precise wand gestures? The calculated pauses between syllables? Biting her lip, Cassandra imitated Xiaji, drawing her wand and aiming it at a broken iron pot. Reparo. No change occurred whatsoever. Defeated, she lowered her wand. Then, recalling what she'd learned, she focused on proper gestures and pauses before trying again. Finally, the iron pot began mending under her spell. Her repair charm worked splendidly, truly befitting the Vol family's reputation as magical prodigies. Yet after witnessing Xiaji's effortless feat, she felt utterly humiliated. Your repair charm is flawless, Xiaji praised sincerely. Cassandra clenched her teeth, suddenly tempted to kick him. How could his magical talent be so staggering? He hadn't even known the incantation moments ago. For the first time ever, Cassandra experienced true defeat in terms of magical ability.